By the way, speaking of awful, the UNLV football team is playing this weekend, Saturday. Listen, we like Tony Sanchez. We have him on the show all the time. I think he's a great guy, but I think his job is in jeopardy. I don't think there's any question about that. I would hope that, maybe some stations in town would disagree with me for lack of a better reason, that they're the flagship station for UNLV. But I think most people in this town would agree that Tony Sanchez, his job is in jeopardy. Now, they're playing San Diego State on Saturday. This is a team, correct me if I'm wrong, with 2 wins, and you have to get to 6 to make a bowl game. Is it fair to say at this point that it is virtually impossible for them to be bowl eligible at this point in the season?
I would not say virtually impossible, because they can win their next 5 games, or they can win 4 of their next 5 games and make a bowl. They can be 6-6 and make a bowl. And if they beat 6-1 San Diego State at home, the spread is 13 points. San Diego State, they really can't score a lot of points. They're really, really good defensively. If UNLV plays a clean game, they can cover the spread. I'm not sure they can win the game.
I don't think they win the game either, but you never know. I mean, they're playing with nothing to lose. Is this an important?
That's true. And Tony,
is this game more important for UNLV or San Diego State?
It's more important for UNLV, and that's not even a question.
Why?
Because San Diego State is bowl eligible. They're not going to make the playoff. 9-3 will win the conference, or 10-2 will win the conference, and they've got a good chance of that. But this is more important for UNLV. It's a home game. It's a quality opponent. Sanchez is not expected to perform well in this scenario, and usually, like we discussed earlier this week, this is when he does best. I think UNLV's got a shot to cover this game. They could win the game, but Oblad's got to play great.
Is Oblad starting?
I hope Oblad's starting.
Yeah. I don't know.
If he's not, that's an issue, because San Diego State will destroy Armani Rodgers, in my opinion. They're really, really good against the pass, and Rodgers is one of the least accurate quarterbacks in
they were
Division I football.
They were horrendous last week.
They were.
Horrendous. Oblad was terrible. They couldn't stop anybody. They were terrible.
I will say this, Fresno State's offense is much better than San Diego State's. They don't score a lot of points. And UNLV, when they're rolling, when they're executing, they can score points. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think the 13 is a pretty likely cover for UNLV at this
And by the
point.
way, UNLV basketball tonight, they're playing a preseason game against a team that is not a D1 team, so I'm sure it'll be a thrashing. But it will be fun to see what TJ Otzelberger will be able to do, watch his offense out there for the first time. So it'll be kind of cool. So we want to take some phone calls on this, too. UNLV football in action on Saturday. The UNLV basketball team in action tonight under TJ Otzelberger in a preseason game. We'll take some phone calls at 257-5396. Let's go to Scott. Scott, what do you think about this UNLV football team?
What's up, Scott?
Do you think a program like UNLV football is just doomed, guys? Do you think you could ever get it going there?
I do. Well, I think it's not doomed at all.
Here's why I agree with JD. They are entering a new arena. It is about the facilities are finally there, but here's what it comes down to. It comes down to hiring the right coach and the right coaching staff. And I don't know if Francois will be capable of doing that. But if they get the right staff in place, there are no more excuses now with the facilities. I think they are probably in the best position now they've been in decades.
Well, absolutely. You've got the Raiders Stadium. You have the $15 million, or how much the facility cost? Is it $34 million or $15?
Yeah, it's up there.
It's a lot of millions of dollars. You can practice football year round in Las Vegas. People are moving here. 5,000 or 7,000 moving to Vegas every single week. It's a very fertile recruiting ground. There's a lot of good athletes here. I think that, and obviously you have the environment, the Las Vegas environment for the kids. So
well,
I think that
when you practice at UNLV, sorry to cut you off, you're practicing outside. All the other coaches who are competing for the same players, they do an amazing job probably of recruiting against UNLV. Like they say to the kid, you want to practice in 117-degree weather?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why they have the new facility.
Yeah. Well, that's why they have new facilities.
But it's still out. What do you mean the new facilities inside?
It's still going to be outside, but they will next year. They will have the capability of practicing in the arena.
Right.
So I mean
they don't practice at Sam Boyd. They do all their practicing on campus.
I understand that, but they will have the ability if there's nothing else going on in that arena in the morning or during the day. I believe they will have the capabilities of practicing there when they need to. It's going to be their home field. So why wouldn't they?
Well, they wouldn't because they got to get all their guys there, and they have school, and you just can't get people. They can't walk across the street. That's what I mean.
Scott, I'm just telling you this right now. They are going to have the ability next year to practice in the actual stadium where they play games. That's there's no question. There's no question about that.
Last thing, real quick. Here's a trivia for you guys. Where in what city is West Coast Baptist College in?
That's the team that UNLV, by the way, basketball is playing tonight.
Correct.
I'm going to be honest with you, Scott. I have absolutely no effing idea.
West Coast.
Yeah, I have to look
West
it up
Coast.
Too. It's in Lancaster, north of LA.
What division is that? Is that Division II?
It's me, you, and 3 piano players could beat them. Okay? That's what division it is.
You know, they always have a game like this every year, Scott. I don't know how you feel about this. I don't mind it. But obviously, the real test is when they play some good teams, outside of conference, which they will in a few weeks.
It's like a Division II scholarship school, guys.
Do you remember?
You're not going to get better.
Do you remember under Dave Rice? Do you remember several years back? I think it was like 6-7 years ago. This is when Dave Rice was really having problems. Didn't they lose to Grand Canyon in a preseason game? I remember they lost.
They lost to Dixie State.
That's what it was. Dixie State? Do you remember? How is it that there are people in this town that still supported Dave Rice's tenure here when they lose to Dixie State? That is pathetic.
Yeah, that was a bad loss. Yeah, Dixie State had a bunch of older guys. I was at that game. They had a bunch of 24-year-old Mormon guys. They were big and strong. Yeah.
And how about that for a guy like Dave Rice, who's a Mormon?
Really good team ball.
Well,
too.
Scott, we hope that doesn't happen tonight to Baptist, whatever the name of the college is.
They should not.
Yes.
If they lose that game, then you guys will have a lot to talk about.
Yes, Scott, we will.
Very,
we will.
very,
We
very
always
true.
do. Scott, appreciate the phone call.
Thanks for the call, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I really think that UNLV can attract a big name coach potentially.
I agree, and I agree with you. I don't think the UNLV football program is doomed if they make a good decision. All right, so when we come back, the legend himself, Jose Canseco, will be joining us. We had a chance to catch up with him earlier in the week. He's got this car wash opening up tomorrow. He's coming up next right here on the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KW.